Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Tato Jayamudirayet.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu
Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, entitled Creation, Chapter 7, text number 17. I'll read it myself. There are two texts. This text doesn't have any purport. The next one we will read together. Iti priyam valgu vichitra jalpai sasantvait त्वाच्युतमित्र सूतः अन्वाद्रवद् दंसित उग्रधन्वा कपिध्वजो गुरुपुत्रं रथेन. Draupadi, the mother of 5 children of the Pandavas, after hearing of the massacre of her sons, Arjuna, who is guided by the infallible Lord as friend and driver, thus satisfied the dear lady by such statements. Then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons, and getting into his chariot, he set out to follow Aswathama, the son of his martial teacher, to cry in distress with eyes full of tears. Trying to pacify her in her great loss, Arjuna spoke to her thus. We'll read this verse together, 1.7.18. Tam Apatantam Saha Vilakshya Durad Tamapatantam Savilakshya Durad Kumaraha Udvignamanaha Rathena Kumarahudvignamanaratena Paradravad Prana Paripsuhu Urvyam Paradravat Prana Paripsururvyam Yavadgamam Rudrabhayad Yatha Kaha Yavadgamam Rudrabhayad Yatha Kaha Tamapatantam Savilakshya Durad Kumarahudvignamanaratena Paradravat Prana Paripsururvyam Yavadgamam Rudrabhayad Yatha Kaha Tamapatantam Savilakshya Durad Kumarahudvignamanaratena Paradravat Prana Paripsururvyam Yavadgamam Rudrabhayad Yatha Kaha Tamapatantam Savilakshya Durad
सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
तम आपतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात् कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम् यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात् कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम् यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम् यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात्
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम्
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः
यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः ऑनलाइन तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात् कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम् यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः तमापतन्तं सविलक्ष्य दूरात् कुमारहोद्विग्नमनारथेन पराद्रवत्प्राणपरीप्सुरुर्व्याम् यावद्गमं रुद्रभयाद्यथाकः Synonyms: tam, him, apatantam, coming over furiously, saha, he, vilakshya, seeing, durad, from a distance, kumaraha, the murderer of the princess, udvignamanaha, disturbed in mind, rathena, on the chariot, paradravad, fled, prana, life, paripshuhu, for protecting, urvyam, with great speed. Yavad gamam, as he fled. Rudra bhayad, by fear of Shiva. Yatha, as. Kaha, Brahma, or Arkaha Surya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Aswathama, the murderer of the princess, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, fled in his chariot, panic-stricken, just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear from Shiva. Translation with repetition. Aswathama, the murderer of the princess, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, fled in his chariot, panic-stricken, just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear from Shiva. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to the reading matter, either Kaha or Arkaha, there are two references in the Puranas. Kaha means Brahma, who once became allured by his daughter and began to follow her, which infuriated Shiva, who attacked Brahma with his trident. Brahmaji fled in fear of his life. As far as Arkaha is concerned, there is a reference in the Vamana Purana. There was a demon by the name Vidyunmali, who was gifted with a glowing golden airplane which traveled to the back of the sun, and night disappeared because of the glowing effulgence of this plane. Thus the sun god became angry, and with his virulent rays he melted the plane. This enraged Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva then attacked the sun god, who fled away and at last fell down at Kashi, Varanasi, and the place became famous as Lolarka. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we have two verses today, very interesting verse. The first one was Iti Priyam Valgu Vichitra Jalpehi Sasantva Itva Achyuta Mitra Sutaha Anva Dravad Damshita Ugradhanva Kapidhvaja Guru Putram Rathena. Iti Priyam Valgu Vichitra Jalpehi. So these are the sweet words, sweet variegated words spoken by Arjuna that we saw in the last class, that he promised that he is going to bring the head of Aswathama as a gift, and then he will wipe the tears from the eyes of Draupadi and pacify her. And he asked that you can stand on the top of the head and take bath after having received this. Iti Priyam Valgu Vichitra Jalpehi. Valgu, this word is used in Bhagavatam also, in many other places. Very beautiful word. Iti Priyam Valgu. Valgu is actually sweet. This is there in Gopi Gita also. The words spoken by the devotees of the Lord in glorifying the Lord are always called Valgu, because another name of the Lord is Uttama Shloka. Shlokas is not meant for glorifying any ordinary mundane material human being. It is meant to glorify the Supreme Lord. And the glorification of the Supreme Lord, even if it is done incorrectly, inaccurately, with broken words, still it is Valgu, very sweet. Iti Priyam Valgu Vichitra Jalpehi Sa Santva Itva Achyuta Mitra Sutaha. Thus pacifying her, pacifying Draupadi, Achyuta Mitra Sutaha. Achyuta Mitra Sutaha is referring to Krishna, Arjuna, who is guided by the infallible Lord. The word Achyuta is infallible, as a friend and a driver, Mitra and Sutaha. Achyuta Mitra Sutaha Anvadrava Damshita Ugra Dhanva. Damshita is protected by a kavacha. Anvadravad he started following. Ugra Dhanva, equipped with furious weapons. The name of Arjuna which is used here in this verse is Kapidvaja, Guruputram Rathena. Seated in his chariot, he started going at a very furious speed and with furious weapons, driven by Arjuna's friend Achyuta, who is the Supreme Lord himself, who is his friend, and Suta, the driver. Now let's see today's verse, the second verse that we spoke. Tam apatantam savilakshya durat kumara hodvigna mana rathena paradravat prana paripsururbyam yavad gamam rudra bhayad yathakaha. Tam apatantam. Apatantam is seeing. Vilakshya durat. Actually, Aswathama saw from a distance. Vilakshya durat. He didn't really see that Arjuna has come close to him, but he saw it from a very, very long distance. Vilakshya durat. But apatantam, he became, seeing that Arjuna is coming so furiously, Kumara hodvigna manarathena. The word which is used for Aswathama is a very beautiful word here. Bhagavatam is, filled with such details. If we don't pay attention, we may miss out. And the beauty of Bhagavatam lies in this detail. The word used for Aswathama here is Kumaraha. Kumaraha is the murderer of the princess. What is that verse? 10.1.4. Is there in Nivritta Tarshar Upagiyamanat Bhavo Sodhat Chotra Manobhiramat Ka Uttama Shloka Gunanubhadat Atmaha. So the word Atmaha is used there, killer of the soul. Here it is Kumaraha. Ha is coming from Han. Han is to Nahanyate Hanyamane Sarire. Kumaraha is the killer of, the murderer of the princess. Kumaraho Udvigna Mana. And he was very disturbed. Udvigna. Sada Samudvigna Dhyat. That comes in Prahlad Maharaj, in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. Sada Samudvigna Dhyat. Asadgrahat. Udvigna Mana. Here it is, he is disturbed. He saw that Tamapatantam. Arjuna is coming very furiously. Savilakshya durat. Kumaraho udvigna manad rathena. Then he, got into his chariot. Paradravat and started running away. Prana paripshur urvyam. Protecting his life. Urvyam, not slowly, with great speed. Yavad gamam rudra bhayad yathakaha. And the analogy which is given here is Yavad gamam rudra bhayad yathakaha. Like Kaha, which is referring to two people here, either Brahma or Surya, the sun god, they fled when they saw furious Shiva, Lord Shiva. Aswathama, the murderer of the princess, it is Kumara Ho. Aswathama, the murderer of the princess, seeing from a great distance, Sabilakshya Durat. Seeing from a great distance, Arjuna coming at him with great speed. Apatantam. Great speed is coming over furiously. Apatantam, basically. Fled in his chariot. Paradravat. Paradravat Rathena. Fled in his chariot, panic stricken. Udvignamana. Udvignamana. Just to save his life. Prana Paripsur. Just to save his life, as Brahma fled in fear from Shiva. Yavad gamam rudra bhayad yathakaha. Very wonderful verse, and there are a lot of details, and there is something which Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport. Very interestingly, there is a lecture which Prabhupada has given on this verse, and that's in recorded, and it's there in the Vedaves. And it is given somewhere in the month of September in 1976. Towards the end of Prabhupada's manifested pastime. And it's recorded in Vrindavan or maybe Bombay. And there are a lot of important points which Prabhupada is driving. We will see, but Um, I'll divide the class like always in 3 parts only, because beyond that our mind also can't remember. The first part is Rudra Bhayad. Yavad Gamam Rudra Bhayad Yatharkaha. So Lord Shiva is known as the destroyer, and the furious Lord Shiva, when he come into his action, when he comes, nobody in this world can be peaceful. Rudra Bhayat. Imagine, if you are chased by someone who's very dangerous, laden with very dangerous weapons, and his nature, or you're looking at his activities, his face, and he is not sitting like Jagannath Prabhu here silently, quietly, but he's not, is very, very atrocious, furious, or whatever it is. You will run for your life. Maybe he has shot a bullet at you that has missed the target. You can't sit there and relax and laugh and say, I'm fine, in control of my life. You will run. Rudra Bhayat. So when Lord Shiva carries his trident and chases, well, that's the last thing that anybody wants. But it happened. It happened to Brahma. And there is another instance which Prabhupada is mentioning here. And Prabhupada says this is according to the reading matter, either Kaha or Arka. There are 2 references in the Puranas. Kaha is Brahma, and this is very known example which is given in Bhagavatam, which is mentioned in various other scriptures as well, when Brahma got allured to his own daughter, who once became allured by his daughter and began to follow her. And seeing this, Shiva got infuriated and he attacked Brahma with his trident. These are some of the important instructions of Bhagavatam, which we have to remember, and we have to understand. What is this? Actually, Brahma is no ordinary human being. He is the first created human being. He is the secondary creator, equipped with all knowledge. But there is an instance like this which is mentioned in Bhagavatam. And what do we learn from this? Before I go to the second one and tell you this thing, you won't believe, actually this instruction is given by Kapila Muni to Mother Devahuti, where he is talking about this reference of Brahma. Of all the people, a son is talking to his mother, and in that conversation there, he is bringing up this, because it is not ordinary son talking to his ordinary mother. It is the Supreme Lord himself giving instruction to Mother Devahuti to remove the coverings of ignorance in this material world. So the verse that comes is Prajapati swam duhitaram drashtva tadrupa dharshitaha rohid bhutam so anvadhavad riksharupi hatatrapaha. Prajapati is Brahma. Prajapati swam duhitaram. Swam duhitaram, his own daughter. Prajapati swam duhitaram drashtva tadrupa dharshitaha. Dharshita, the word is bewildered. Drashtva tadrupa dharshita. He saw the beautiful, charming form of his own daughter. Prajapati swam duhitaram drashtva tadrupa dharshitaha. He got completely bewildered. Rohid bhutam swa anvadhavat. Rohid bhutam is referring to Brahma took the form of a deer. Rohid bhutam swa anvadhavat. And he started chasing. Riksharupi. Riksharupi is like she-deer. So Brahma's daughter was having a form of a sea-deer, and seeing that Rohid bhutam, Brahma started chasing like a male deer. Hatatrapaha. Forgetting all the shame. Hatatrapaha. Translation is, at the sight of his own daughter, Brahma was bewildered by her charms and shamelessly ran up to her in the form of a stag when she took the form of a hind. Hind is nothing but a she-deer. So when she was in the form of a she-deer, he got charmed and he took a form of a stag and started chasing. Now when we hear this instruction, what should we reflect? You don't have to concoct or think about it. Prabhupada mentions in the purport. Lord Brahma's being captivated by the charms of his daughter and Lord Shiva's being captivated by the Mohini form of the Lord are specific instances which instruct us that even great demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, what to speak of the ordinary conditioned soul, are captivated by the beauty of woman. Therefore, everyone is advised that one should not freely mix even with one's daughter, mother, or sister, because the senses are so strong that when one becomes infatuated, the senses do not consider the relationship of daughter, mother, or sister. It is best, therefore, to practice controlling the senses by performing bhakti yoga, engaging in the service of the Madana Mohana. The Lord's name is Madana Mohana. These are all very instructive instructions. This verse that Prabhupada is mentioning here, which is saying that, that even great demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, what to speak of the ordinary conditioned soul, are captivated by the beauty of a woman, and therefore everyone is advised that one should not freely mix even with one's daughter, mother, or sister, because the senses are so strong that when one becomes infatuated, the senses do not consider the relationship of daughter, mother, or sister. Balavan Indriya Gramo, Balavan Indriya. It comes actually in Bhagavatam in reference to this. Anybody wants to guess which is this? Yayati, and this is Sarmishtha, but in connection with the episode of Yayati in Bhagavatam, this verse comes which says Matra Swasra Dvihitrava Na Vivikta Sano Bhavet Balavan Indriya Gramo Vidvam Samapi Karshati. Matra Swasra Duhitra. Matra is mother, Swasra is sister, and Duhitra is daughter. Matra Swasra Duhitrava Na Vivikta Asano Bhavet. One should not go and sit very close to them. Matra Swasra Duhitrava Na Vivikta Asano Bhavet Balavan Indriya Gramo. Balavan, this senses are very, very strong. Vidvam Samapi Karsati. Very interesting this verse. One should not follow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter, for the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. In the purport, Prabhupada says, okay, I have that thing. Actually, this episode of Yayati is a very instructive one. Maybe in some other time, some other context we will see. But important thing is this instruction which is mentioned in this. Prabhupada in the purport is mentioning that learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. As specifically mentioned herewith, such attraction is possible even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Generally, of course, one is not sexually attracted to his mother, sister, or daughter, but if one allows himself to sit very close to such a woman, one may be attracted. This is a psychological fact. It may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he is not very advanced in civilized life. However, as specifically mentioned here, so this is a point, Vidvam Samapi Karsati. You may say that, okay, somebody is not advanced in civilized life, maybe he is doing this. No. Vidvam Samapi Karsati. Even if one is highly advanced, materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desires. So this is such an important thing, and it could happen to Brahma, as Prabhupada is writing in the purport. Brahma and Shiva are fallible, then who are we? What are our positions? Why this kind of instruction is given? Because the reason being, the senses are extremely strong. It's not easy. And once the senses become agitated, impetuous, or it becomes disturbed, then tough, very tough. The discrimination power also goes in our mind. Okay, now let's go to the part 2 and understand this, which is very elaborately explained by Krishna in which chapter? Part 2 is my part 2. Where is it mentioned? Krishna, where is he talking about this most sinful enemy of ours? Really? Nineteenth chapter anyway is our favorite chapters for everybody here. Jagannath Prabhu? That's correct. Chapter number. सब सही है. Chanchala तो Chanchalam is not the right one. Chapter 9. No, he has gone little farther. You said the right verse. Just to confuse you, I said it is not. But the chapter number is chapter 3. That question, actually we should always pay attention to the questions which Arjuna is asking. What happens is Bhagavad Gita also becomes a formality or a ritual when we don't pay attention to the questions which Arjuna is asking. Why that kind of a question is coming? What instruction did Krishna give? And what made Arjuna ask those questions? So he is asking this question, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramathi balavadridham anichan api varshneya baladiva niyojitah. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. This is so flickering, so disturbing. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramathi. This is maddening. Balavad, very strong. Dridham, impetuous, obstinate. Balavadridham. Really this? No. I think I mixed up this. This was in 6th chapter, what you said. The verse that Arjuna speaks is Athakyena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichan api varshneya baladiva niyojita. Athakyena prayuktoyam. Why is it that one is acting sinfully? Athakyena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha. Anichan, he's not really willing to do this. Anichan api varshneya baladiva niyojita. And there is a force which is acting on it. Now, why did Arjuna ask this question? I want to give you some context and then we will see some solution which Krishna gives, because as this verse is talking that we shouldn't be even sitting next to our mother, sister and daughter, how careful we should be. And what is the solution which Krishna gives? Wonderful solutions. Unfortunately, we don't pay attention to the solutions, and that's why we have still problems. In third chapter, what is the title? इधर देखना है माता जी, इधर उधर नहीं. Karma Yoga? Really? Second one is contents of Gita summarized, but still Arjuna had question. Karma Yoga. In the third chapter, there is a verse which comes, which says, Sadrisham chestate swasya Prakriter jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows his nature. What can repression accomplish? Karma Yoga is all about acting as per our own nature. So Krishna is telling that one should act as per its own nature. And this is where the problem lies, and that leads to the question of Arjuna. And then after that, Krishna says that it is better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than another's duties. This is really destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties. For to follow another's path is dangerous. Shreyan swadharma bigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat Swadharma nidhanam shreyaha parodharma bhayabha. Now this is something, now imagine if as per your guna, as per your nature, you are doing some activities and you are getting failures in that. Krishna is telling it is better to perform your own duty than to follow somebody else's duty, is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Imagine if somebody tells you that in your material world, whatever activities you are doing, it is only leading you to failure, and you want success by following somebody else's path, but Krishna is telling that is dangerous. How do you understand this? So that is all explained in this purport, but the essence of that is work is actually not meant for profit. It is not meant for profit. Rather work is, I don't know why it is not working properly. Work is meant for purification. So the work that we are doing, that is all actually meant for purification. This is a very important concept which Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. You may get failure in life while doing your prescribed duties, but still that is good, because that failure is actually purifying you inside. Whereas if you follow the path of somebody else, you may get profit, but that is not something which is lucrative, because that profit binds you in this material world. So when Krishna was telling this question, when he was explaining this Karma Yoga, Arjuna is asking this question. The reason being, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, if you read carefully Bhagavad Gita, that our nature has two aspects. There are two aspects of our nature. One is called the inclination. Anybody wants to guess what's the other part? The other part is cravings. So there is the nature is, there is an inclination. Somebody wants to do some work. Somebody is a Kshatriya, somebody is a Brahmana, somebody is a Vaishya, somebody is a Sudra. Naturally, he is inclined to that kind of a work. But there are also the cravings. So when Karma Yoga is explained by Krishna, where he is telling you should follow your nature, and when you are following your nature, you are allowing your inclination to also expand, and your cravings to also expand. And when the cravings are expanding, that is where the problem is coming. That is where Arjuna is asking this question, Athakkena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichchanapi varshnaya baladiva niyojitaha. Very interestingly, we all had that exercise of finding out our personality, right? Personality traits. There are many new inventions which have come where you can see what is the personality type of a man, so that whether he is suitable to do what kind of a role in a team or an organization, they find out. But long before all these personality tests were invented, Bhagavad Gita or our ancient Vedic scriptures had a very simple but yet a very profound personality test. And as per that personality test, and I'm going to drive some point which will make you realize how the solution is so profound, which is given by Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita actually defines that based on the inclination that people have, they can be divided into 4 categories. And what are those 4 categories? So you can have, it's based on the combination of the 3 modes. You can have a little bit of sattva. You have a lot of sattva guna, and a little bit of raja guna, and a little bit of tamo guna. This is the first category. Then you can have a little less sattva guna, but lot of raja guna, and again little tamo guna. Then the third category is sattva guna is very less, raja guna is also less, but tamo guna is increasing a little bit. And the fourth category is sattva is less, rajas is less. This is rajas is more. And then the third one is sattva guna is less, rajas is less, but tamo guna has increased like anything. These are the 4 categories which Bhagavad Gita is talking about. First is sattva guna high, raja guna small, tamo guna is also very, very small. Second one is sattva guna is very less, raja guna has increased, and tamo guna is still very less. Third one is sattva guna high, and raja guna is very high, and tamo guna is also high. And the fourth one, sattva guna is low, raja guna low, and tamo guna is low. So these are nothing but the first one is called the thinkers or the Brahmana class, where they have high sattva guna. The second one is nothing but the administrators or the Kshatriya administrators. And the third one is like the maintainer or the Vaishyas who are doing business. maintainer, business. And the last one is actually the salaried class or the Sudras who have got high tamaguna, and then they act in a particular way. So interestingly, if you see closely, this division which is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, it will come in the 14th chapter and 18th chapter also. Krishna talks about this. The different classification based on the guna. We always think that sattva-guna is always good and tamoguna is bad. But actually, nobody is having pure goodness or pure tamoguna. It's a combination. But if you see closely, in this chart, this rajoguna is actually common in all the three. In some, sattva is less, tama is less, something is there, but rajas is prominently there in all four. And that is where Krishna is telling that kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahasano mahapapma viddhiyanam iha vairinam. Actually, this kama, this desire to enjoy or lusty propensity comes from the mode of passion. But somebody wants to enjoy this material world, and all the four divisions of human society have got that rajoguna in them. Kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhava mahasano mahapapma viddhiyanam iha vairinam. This is the dreadliest enemy that one has. And it is produced from this mode of passion where somebody wants to enjoy. Then Krishna actually gives very interesting example. How do I... Is there a way to remove this? Very, very nice example. He gives the covering of this lust in three different ways. Anybody remembers what are the examples which Krishna gives? Fire and smoke. Embryo and womb. Embryo and womb. Mirror and dust. So these three examples which Krishna gives, it drives a very important point. You may not have understood it in this way. If you see visibility and utility, these two words, visibility and utility. Fire and smoke, you can see the smoke as well as you can see the fire. Both are visible. Utility, yes, there is some utility because smoke, even with a smoky this thing, you can still cook something. Mirror and dust, mirror is visible, you can see the mirror. Utility, you can't see your reflection. So because it is covered with the dust, so no utility. Embryo covered by the womb, okay, no visibility, no utility. The first one is actually human beings. The consciousness of a human being is very evolved. Second one is animals. They can express their emotions. They can express to a certain extent, but it is still not very, the utility is very less. And this one is trees, right? Trees, they can't do anything. They are just standing there long, all seasons, can't express nothing. Consciousness is fully covered. So we can see in our life also the degree to which the lust has covered us. If it is, sometimes people behave like animalistic way, right? The degree of covering is very high. The consciousness is that much contaminated. And when the degree of consciousness is fully contaminated, fully covered, then that is trees. They behave like that. But only when a person is in the proper consciousness of a human being, that he can evolve, he can understand who's the deadliest enemy and he can come out of it. And what is the solution which Krishna gives? Very interesting solution. He says, which is the sitting place of lust? Really? Senses you missed out. No, one important thing. First is senses. Then mind and intelligence. Senses, mind and intelligence are the sitting place of this lust. And if you see the hierarchy which he gives, senses are like less than the mind, and mind is less than the intelligence, and it is less than the soul. But the solution which Krishna gives is something very powerful, and it is an outside-in solution which Krishna gives. And the solution is Tasmat tvam indriyani adau niyamya bharatarshavaha papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nasanam. Tasmat tvam indriyani aho. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curve this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses. The solution which he is giving, he is not talking about controlling the mind, he is not talking about intelligence, he is not talking about giving direction. That comes little later, but this first instruction that he gives is control your senses. It is an outside-in approach. You may say that, okay, soul, if it is becoming strong, then it can give direction to intelligence, can give direction to mind, and it can give direction to senses, and it will work. But no, he is telling the solution as per the Yoga Sutra is called somatic psychological solution. We know about psychosomatic, where if the mind is agitated, it has an impact on the body, but here the solution is somatic psycho. If you take care of the body, the senses, if you are able to control the senses, in turn mind will get controlled, because mind is the one which is controlling the senses. When the senses are automatically controlled, mind is not disturbed, and intelligence also will remain steady. So he's telling best of the Bharatas in the very beginning, curb the great symbol of sin by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Jnana, Vijnana, Nasanam. Prabhupada talks about what is Jnana and Vijnana. Vijnanam refers to the specific knowledge of the spirit soul and knowledge of one's constitutional position and his relationship to the Supreme Soul. Jnana, Vijnanam, Nasanam. It completely destroys. So that is why the regulation or a disciplined life is what is the solution which Krishna gives. I'm not saying this is the ultimate solution, but this is something which is must, which is a guarantee, which is a definite thing. We have to control our senses. Controlling the senses means, not allowing the senses to get loose and wander or pander to the hankerings and indulge. And then after you indulge, then the mind is disturbed. Once the mind is disturbed, you can't do anything. Intelligence also supports the senses or the mind's dictation at that time. But if it is controlled, if you're not allowing your senses to go, if you're able to restrain the senses, then the solution is there. You can control over this lust. Otherwise, it is jnana, vijnana, nasanam. So, of course, Bhagavad Gita has got many such very, very fine points which can, if we pay attention, it can help advance in spiritual life genuinely, not some theoretically. But for that, we have to acknowledge, we have to understand how much we don't know, and go with that mood of humility and see what Krishna is suggesting or referring. So this is the second part, understanding the effect of lust and where it comes from and how it increases and what we can do something from Bhagavad Gita to control this, which is implementable by each one of us. The third part is more sobering, which also is mentioned in this verse, which is what Prabhupada mentions in the lecture. And he says that Brahma fled, Arka or Surya also fled, because they are all in the bodily concept of life. When somebody is in the bodily concept of life, somebody is in the bodily concept of life, they are fearful of their life. Very, very fearful. Dehatma buddhi. When somebody is considering themselves to be these bodies, they are fearful that this body is coming to an end. This body is going to be finished. They are fearful. They want to protect their life. Fear is but a natural symptom of a person who is in this material life, always fearful, especially when it comes to one's own life or one's own family members and relatives. Very, very protective. I want to somehow protect them. I want to take care of them. But actually, material world is so designed and so created that every one of us is fallible. We have to leave this world. We have to quit our bodies. The word used in this verse for Aswathama, what is the word used? Kumaraha. Kumara is the word which is used in Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram. Kaumaram means it's not like a person when he is becoming old, he will die. No, Kumaraha. Even if he is a young man, he can be killed. Nobody can guarantee anything in this world. That is why there is a very beautiful purport which Prabhupada quotes in this lecture. If endowment of powers and withdrawal of powers by the Lord are possible even for a great devotee like Arjuna, or even the demigods in heaven, then what to speak of the ordinary living beings who are but figs compared to such great souls? The lesson is therefore that no one should be puffed up for his powers borrowed from the Lord. Actually, this is in connection with, when Arjuna lost to those cowherd men while trying to protect the wives of Krishna. In that connection, Prabhupada mentions about this purport that if endowment of powers and withdrawal of powers by the Lord are possible, even for a great devotee like Arjuna, then who are we? We are like figs. What is our position? Any moment it can be withdrawn. But so much of confidence, so much of, pride that comes to in our this thing, I have got money, I have got youth, I have got this thing, in one moment it can be taken away. The lesson is therefore that no one should be puffed up for his powers borrowed from the Lord. I remember there was this famous boxer by name Cassius Clay, who later on became Muhammad Ali. And if you search in YouTube, you will find there is a video where he says, I am the strongest. I am the most strongest, or something like that. I am the strongest, he says. Because his punch was so lethal and he was almost invincible. He was always in the ring, he has always been victorious. That same Muhammad Ali, when he won the Olympics in 1960 in Rome, and in 1996 in Atlanta Olympics, he was supposed to put that final torch in that, they carry the torch and then it has to be finally lit. And the final act was supposed to be done by Muhammad Ali. 30 years later, the same Muhammad Ali was not able to even lift that torch. He was finding it very, very difficult. For minutes together, he was struggling to put that in that main thing. And this was live telecasted, billions of people were watching, and they said it is a triumph of human spirit. But actually the organizers, deep within, they heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that finally he could do it. Same Muhammad Ali, 30 years later, because of Parkinson's disease, was not able to even lift this. This is what is our position. Chanchalpati Prabhu, in one of the classes, he was mentioning about two people, very elderly, some 90 plus years old. He had gone to some house program and he was seeing in one corner these two people were seated, wearing coat and suit and all, but the body was completely emancipated. They were sitting, they were very, very thin, and they were sitting there. And after the class was over, the host introduced them to Prabhu, saying that they were some distant relatives, some grandfather or some relatives, and Prabhu was talking to them. And when he asked them, what is your background? What have you done? So the both of them were professors or pass outs of MIT or some Harvard, some big university, and they were doing something very big in life. Now they were not able to hear, body has gone shrunk, and they were sitting in one place, not able to remember things. This is all can happen to any one of us. But in our life, when these gifts are given to us by the Lord, we get so puffed up. And when these things are taken away from us, we feel very disturbed. Whereas in this case, Arjuna, if you see, he is actually expressing his gratitude for every single thing in his life. How he became victorious, how he won Draupadi in Swayamvar, every single thing. This is one thing, if we practice, then even in difficult situations or circumstances, we will remain peaceful. The practice or the attitude of gratitude. This is not something which can be done when things are taken away from you. At that time, when the mind is disturbed and agitated, you will curse for everything, every single thing that is happening. Like Arjuna could have done that. But Arjuna was pacified, dhira. Prabhupada is saying the material world or the life is so designed that we will be all put into this kind of a situation where we'll kneel down, where we'll come to our knees, and we will have to go through these difficult situations. At that time, if we don't want to get disturbed and remain undisturbed, we should learn the attitude of gratitude. And that can happen every single day for different things that the Lord has given. So that when the Lord is withdrawing at that time, I can genuinely appreciate the Lord, saying thank you, the Lord, for whatever you have given it to me. Otherwise, like a normal, ordinary human being, they get completely bewildered, smashed and disturbed by these things. O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I have been defeated by a number of infidel cowherd men while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna. It's a very beautiful verse. Soham nripendra rahita purushottamena sakhya priyena suhruda hridayena sunyaha adhvani urukrama parigraha manga rakshan gope rasadbhir avaleva brijnitosmi. This is the verse which Arjuna says. He's been defeated by some infidel cowherd men. It can happen to any one of us, but then how did Arjuna come back to his senses? How did he restore his restore his sanity? There are 2-3 verses in first canto 15th chapter. Very, very wonderful verse actually. These are so wonderful and so profound. Each one of us should remember these verses very, very, very nicely. And the verse actually starts. I'll come to those verses little later, but I want to tell you this one thing and then we will close and I'll give you that solution which Arjuna is giving and how this is so practical and how we can implement in our life. One of the things which the Yoga Sutras they talk about is why our mind needs to express this gratitude. What is the need? When we express gratitude, what happens? So as per the Yoga Sutras, when we express gratitude, then our mind becomes peaceful. Peaceful is the symptom of Sattva Guna. And unless a person comes to Sattva Guna, it is very difficult to remain, in the spiritual platform or look for spiritual knowledge. And what stops us is the Chitta Vrittis of the mind. And there are 4 such states which the Yoga Sutras talk about. The first one is Kshipta. Kshipta. The second one is Mudha. And the third one is Vikshipta. If you search, you can get these words actually. So Kshipta means a person who is very disturbed. He'll be sitting here, he'll be doing something in WhatsApp. Mind is disturbed, agitated. He's doing WhatsApp, he's going somewhere, he'll reach there, then he'll realize, no, I should call someone. Then he's running after that. Then he's running and trying to call someone, then he realizes, oh, I forgot this. Then he'll again run back. Then he'll do something. This is called Kshipta, Kshiptamati. Then there is Mudha. Mudha is always sleeping. Whichever place you'll put them, they'll be always sleeping in ignorant position. Mind, they have no control. It's Mudha. Kshipta, Mudha, Vikshipta. Kshipta is, if what I explained is just a small this thing. Vikshipta is fully disturbed, agitated for small things, disturbed in mind, forget the big goal of life. They do some blunders, then they realize, oh my God, I should have not done this. They have no control. It's a mad state. Kshipta, Mudha, Vikshipta, and then comes Ekagra. Ekagra is the state when somebody is controlled. This is the state of goodness. Kshipta, Mudha, Vikshipta, Ekagra. One has to come to that state of Ekagra. The state of Ekagra as per the Yoga Sutra is possible when we are expressing gratitude and we are peaceful in the heart. Unless we are peaceful, we can't practice spiritual life. And to conclude our time, the verses which Arjuna says, it comes in 1:15, 27 to 30. And very, very interesting verse, very nice verses. How did Arjuna, who was so devastated, who was so crestfallen, and when everything was taken away from him, how did he manage to get his sanity? So he's telling, Desa kalartha yuktani hrittapo upasamani cha haranti smaratas chittam govinda vihitani me. Now I'm attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of Godhead, Govinda, because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. Desha kalartha yuktani hrittapo upasamani cha. This is meant to remove these miseries from all circumstances and all time. They are meant to relieve the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. Desha kalartha yuktani hrittapo upasamani cha haranti smaratas chittam govinda vihitani me. And then he's telling, evam chintayato jishno krishna pada saroruham sauhardena tigadhena santa sed bimala matihi. Evam chintayato jishno. Like that, when he meditated his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishna Pada Saroruham. Krishna Pada Saroruham. If somebody is meditating on the instructions of the Lord, meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, Saroruham, then in the heart, Saroruham is like the lotus which is blossoming. When the lotus blossoms, it's a very beautiful process. Saroruham, actually the word to word resembling lotus as Prabhupada is writing, but in the translation it is mentioned like the lotus blossomed in his heart. The lotus of knowledge blossomed in his heart. And this knowledge was given by Krishna in Sauhardena Atigadhena. It was given in deep friendship and with great intimacy. And when he meditated on this instruction, Santa Sid Vimala Matihi. Mati, the mind became Santa. Santa is pacified. Santa Sid Vimala Matihi. Being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which were imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. So, what is the effect? What is the result of this if the mind becomes pacified? Or if somebody is meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, it is mentioned Vasudevangri Anudhyana Parirambhitaram Hasa Bhaktya Nirmathita Sesha Kashaya Dhishano Arjuna. There are two effects which is mentioned here. Vasudevangri Anudhyana Paribhrahmitaram Hasa. Vasudevangri Anudhyana. When somebody is meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, first is Parirambhita Ramhasa Bhaktya. Bhaktya in the heart, bhakti or devotion in the heart increases, intensifies. Parirambhita Ramhasa Bhaktya. Nirmahati Sesha Kashaya Dhishno Arjuna. And the second thing is all the trashes, all the impurities in the mind, they are completely removed. Kashaya Dhishno Arjuna. It is completely cleansed. And the last thing which he is mentioning is that somebody may question that for Arjuna, Krishna was personally present and he gave these instructions, he could meditate on those things. For us, nobody is there. Whose instructions, where is the lotus feet, where should I meditate upon? Then this verse which is spoken is very, very instructive, and with this we will close. Gitam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangrama Murdhani Kala Karma Tamo Ruddham Punar Adhyagamat Prabhu. We may not have Krishna personally present for us, but we have the instructions of Krishna in the form of Gita and Bhagavata. These two words are mentioned. Gitam Bhagavata Jnanam, and this knowledge is available. Yattat Sangrama Murdhani. For Arjuna, he was facing this battle of Kurukshetra. Yattat Sangrama Murdhani. He had to fight this. For us, what battle we have? Kala Karma Tamo Ruddham. Kala Karma. We have no control. What action we have done, what reactions will come, in what way the Kala will manifest the things in our life, we have no idea. Kala Karma Tamo Ruddham, and Tamoguna, which is meant to engulf our consciousness in some darkness. Kala Karma Tamo Ruddham Punar Adhyagamat Prabhu. Punar Adhyagamat Prabhu means he again became situated in his glorious position as Prabhu. That is possible if we take shelter of Gita Bhagavata Jnana. I'm just read this, but these verses are very, very profound. 27 to 30. If anybody is having any difficulties and wants to know how he can remain dhira instead of being adhira, then these verses are meant for that. Prabhupada actually in the lecture only talks about that our Krishna consciousness movement is meant to make people from adhira state to dhira state. And this is what, if somebody takes up to this process, he can become dhira and will not fled like Brahma and Arka, Surya fled. So, what we discussed was, the fact that the context of Rudra Bhaya and how when Lord Shiva carries the trident in his hand, whoever is there in the front, it's the last thing that probably somebody wants. It's a very, very scary thing. We may not have Lord Shiva coming in front of us with a trident, but it can appear in the form of death, it can appear in the form of diseases, it can appear in the form of some loss, something which we have no control. But how do we keep our balance or sanity? That we will see. But before that, we spoke about how Lord Brahma got attracted to his own daughter, and how Prabhupada is mentioning that, even one should not sit close to one's own mother, sister, or daughter, because our indriya are so powerful. Balavan indriya grama, vidvamsam api karsati. Even if somebody is a man of knowledge, materially very, very advanced in knowledge or spiritually advanced, karsati, he may also fall down. Like in the case of Yayati we were seeing, or Brahma or Shiva's example, which is given in the purport. Then we saw from Bhagavad Gita how Krishna is talking about somatic psychoanalysis or somatic psycho solution of controlling this lust, which are the sitting place of the lust, how this lust is produced, how every one of us have got this rajoguna, and how to degree to which this rajoguna is there inside us, to that degree our consciousness is covered, because this lust is a byproduct of rajoguna, and the more rajoguna one has, to that degree the consciousness or the knowledge is covered. And the solution is by regulating the senses, by disciplining life, one can actually control over this lust, win over this lust. Then we saw the third one, which is how to remain sane, or how to remain dhira in times of difficulty or situations, and how every one of us is fallible, like the example of Muhammad Ali, who was, in due course of time, even was finding it difficult even lift a torch, and same thing can happen to us. Any moment it can be withdrawn. So we shouldn't be having unnecessary pride in whatever we have, and how we can maintain sanity by expressing our gratitude to the Lord for every single day, whatever the Lord has given, so that when these things are withdrawn, we are not, having any kind of disturbance or feeling ill feelings inside. Rather, we are having gratitude. And the second thing is how meditating on the instructions of Krishna, which is left behind in the form of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, this mind can become santasid bimalamatihi. It can become free from all this malas, and mind can become pacified. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. And 1.15.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. You have explained that one acts as per his nature. So the nature can be changed, right?
And what does nature mean? I told, right? There are two things. One is inclinations, the other one is cravings. So inclinations are something which you are naturally inclined. But every one of us have got some cravings which are our weaknesses. Can be changed provided we are exercising control on our senses. The weaknesses are nothing but different manifestations of the different gunas which are acting on us. And the gross way that it acts on us is in our bodies, with the activities that we are doing. So in a nutshell, the answer to your question is yes. You had asked me a yes or no. Yes, it can be changed. Only the cravings. We can't change our inclinations. That's not possible.
Prabhu, you have mentioned all those three modes, combinations, right? So one is, you said sattva, raja, tamas, everything being high. So when
there was nothing where everything, all three were high.
Okay.
First one was sattva was high, rajas and tamas low. Second one was sattva low, rajas high, and tamas is also low. That is kshatriya. Third one was sattva low, rajas high, tama little higher. The last one is sattva low, rajas low, tamas high.
No.
That is the sudras. Yeah.
Okay.
What was the question?
No. I made a note like everything is high, so I was
Sattva,
thinking
rajas,
how
tamas.
everything can be like.
No. Sattva was high, rajas was small, R small, T was also small.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
If no other question, we'll stop here and see this wonderful Bhagavatam, how it is unfolding, what next happens. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki